Hey, this is Walt from StogieReview.com here with another video cigar review, and this time I have something a little different. It's not quite a full cigar review, it's not quite a short ashes, it's kind of a follow-up, and the reason being it's a follow-up is because I've smoked this cigar fairly recently, and I was sent the cigar and asked to provide some tasting notes after I smoked them. And there's not really anything much to look at. There is no band. This is the Gran Habano Azteca. And as I had mentioned before, back in the first impressions review, that I was asked if I was interested in being part of a tasting panel, and basically the trade-off was we'll send you a couple cigars, and in turn, you know, tell us what you think of them. So rather than do, you know, write down a bunch of notes and stuff, I thought I'd just record my thoughts and make them available to anyone on Stogie Review, and I thought that would suffice. So that is that's the goal tonight. So, with that said, this is the first of the batch I received from Gran Habano. I have two other ones, and I think I have some more on the way. I don't think that they're Azteca cigars. I think they may be something else, a test blend of some sort. But let's get this thing underway. This really doesn't have to be too long, so we'll see what we can do about keeping it like 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes at the most. Looking over it, this cigar has what I consider, or what I call, a coarse wrap, meaning that every time that the wrapper leaf spirals around the cigar, it's very apparent. It doesn't disappear in the color, and you know, it doesn't, you know, the veins moving throughout the wrapper leaf don't conceal it. It is very apparent, and it is especially apparent when there's a gap exposing the binder. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that or not. But there is a small section in the wrap where you can see straight through to the binder. Not real crazy about that. It actually happens in two locations, actually here and here. There's a small water spot toward the foot. The wrapper has a bit of a rugged appearance to it. It's very oily, and I think that's maybe part of the problem with trying to get the camera to focus in on it. There's a glare on the cigar from the overhead lights and whatnot because of how oily the wrapper is, which I kind of like. But the wrapper looks pretty rugged. The cap, it doesn't look bad. It was obviously a different leaf, or it's definitely a different shade. It is much darker than the head of the cigar. Second water spot about up toward the cap, just sort of looking at it and giving it a once over. Yeah, rugged is probably the best way to put it. The reason I haven't smoked these sooner, I've been sitting on them for a couple of weeks now, is that I'm not a big fan of this particular size cigar. This is 54 by 6. Generally, I smoke Coronas and Robustos, so when something large like this comes by, I really need to make an effort to smoke it. I can't just light it on up. Or I could, I suppose, but I'm kind of hesitant because it's just not a size I'm very comfortable with because of how long they generally take to smoke. You know, I'm usually allotted 2 hours to smoke a cigar in the evening, and being a slow smoker, a Robusto will fill that 2-hour time slot. So I'm getting started a little earlier than usual to see just how much we can get through before it gets too late and I go to bed, because this will be my evening cigar. So, you know, there's no sense in you watching me light the cigar. You know what that's all about already. So sit tight, I'll be right back. We'll take a first look at the Gran Habano Azteca, see how it's doing, and then maybe we'll come back about halfway and maybe once more before we wrap up, and handle it that way. Or maybe I'll go straight on through to the halfway point and do it that way. Who knows? We're flying by the seat of our pants with this one. So sit tight, and I will be right back. Alright, well, I am back and plugging away on my Gran Habano Azteca, and as I pointed out to you when right before I lit it, I had mentioned that there was a space in in the wrap, where I was seeing some binder because there was some spread in the way that it was wrapped. You know, that there wasn't any overlap, and you can actually see it pretty good now as that wrap lifts a little bit, and I'm guessing expands a little bit from the heat, but it's a lot more apparent now. I've been going pretty strong on this cigar. I started a little bit earlier than I usually get started at night, and I'm looking at probably 50 minutes in, and I'm getting near the halfway point. Cigar is burning pretty well. I haven't had to touch up the cigar. The ash is moderately strong. It's really dark in color. Just like the earlier one I had, the first one, it's got these really bright white specks all throughout the ash, which I find pretty cool. There's no flaking, no flowering, any of that kind of stuff. The smoke is a little airy, and what I mean by that is you get a nice pull on the cigar and you don't get the smoke volume that you expect. It seems kind of aired out. It's still easy to get through the sinuses, and it's still dense enough to be enjoyable, but it still seems lacking a little bit. In the flavor department, this cigar is just, it seems like a very leisurely, relaxed kind of a cigar. And what I mean by that is, you pull the smoke through the cigar, you take a nice big puff, you feel the smoke sort of waft across the palate, and the flavor is really slow to roll out. And then it's just kind of lazily rolls over the palate, and as you expel the smoke, it just sort of lazily goes and fades away, and leaves you with a sort of a clean feel on the palate. There's no lingering aftertaste that would be a negative aspect of the cigar. But that sort of lazy, slow flavor is very deep and kind of earthy. It's got an interesting bitterness to it. I wasn't quite sure what to pair with this cigar, and I didn't want to just grab a bottle of water. So what I ended up doing was I posted on Twitter some of the stuff that I had, and I asked someone to make a recommendation. And one of the recommendations was Woodford Reserve. So I'm pairing it with a little bit of bourbon. And the pairing's it's not bad, but it's not stellar either. Personally, I'd much rather be smoking this with a stout of some sort, maybe an imperial stout or something like that. I think it would give it some needed depth, because at the moment the flavors just aren't, I don't know, I guess I'm looking for something a little brighter, something to contrast that really deep sort of just it's like a mildly bitter, just really deep sort of taste. There's a lot of body, a lot of strength, but I'm finding it similar to the way I think about canes, where you've got lots of power, but you're lacking in flavor. And in this case, I think it's pretty much the same thing. You've got a cigar with a lot of body, a lot of power, and it's lacking in the flavor department. So that's where we're at. Don't want to let this go for too long, so I'm going to take another break. I'll be back. We'll come back one more time. We'll wrap up the cigar. I'll let you be on your way, and that's that. I don't know how else to end it. So sit tight, and I will be right back. All right. Well, I am back, and we're actually closing in on about 2 hours now, and cigar's going strong. I've got a nice tightly compacted ash, really dark in color. It's got these really nice, really bright white sort of specks all throughout the ash. Probably the magnesium in the soil that's making those bright specks. The draw is better. It's not tough or stiff or anything like that. It was kind of airy before, where the smoke wasn't as dense as I would have liked it. Now that airiness has sort of gone away, and I'm getting a more dense smoke. I think it may have been some air leaking in around the wrapper as it spiraled down. I showed you some separation. I think there may have been some air leaking in there, because once I burned past that, the smoke got much denser, and it's gotten a little fuller as well. Nice heavy, full texture on the palate. It's got some definite strength to it. You can feel that the cigar has power. It's got a bit of a nicotine kick to it. It's still, and I don't know whether it's best described as sort of a relaxed cigar or a lazy cigar, but it's got just a very slow-moving, full-bodied flavor to it. The flavor is very slow on and off the palate. It doesn't linger for a terribly long time, but it's really slow going before it totally dissipates. The core flavor is a rich, bitter flavor, and I kind of like it. It's not as flavorful as I would like, but I definitely like the bitterness that I'm getting out of the cigar. I finished up a little bit of bourbon, and I wound up getting a glass of iced tea. I didn't feel like, you know, I just wasn't up to drinking another glass of bourbon or switching to something else. And the iced tea is kind of interesting. It's sweet, so it does something really weird with the flavor profile. I thought maybe it would. The thing that got me thinking about this was I was actually going to pair this with Zaya rum, which is sweet. And I thought, you know, Maduro wrapper has a natural sweetness to it. The Zaya being sweet would probably pair well with the cigar. So I wound up going with the Woodford because it was recommended, and it was kind of hit or miss. It wasn't stellar, but it wasn't a poor pairing either. So when I switched the iced tea, the sweetness in the iced tea immediately made me think that, wow, this probably wouldn't pair well with the Zaya. The sweetness is really throwing this bitter flavor out of whack, and actually I had to take several puffs after the last sip of iced tea before the flavor profile sort of settled back out again. So I think the sweetness on the palate really did something strange to the flavor profile that I didn't care for. And that's pretty much where we're at. I mean, I would like to see the cigar be more flavorful, but a lot of times I think that sometimes you get a cigar that the manufacturer sacrifices flavor for power. And here we've got a full-bodied, full-powered cigar, but it's lacking that full flavored aspect that I really enjoy. It's probably medium, mild to medium flavor-wise, full-bodied, full strength. But again, I think that it's lacking in flavor a bit. If you're a fan of the cane, I think that this is something that you will enjoy. It's not as powerful as the cane, but it's got definite body and definite power to it. And that's where we're at. So that about does it for my tasting notes on the Gran Habano Azteca. I don't know how much more I'm going to smoke. It's not bad, but it's not wowing me either. And I'm getting kind of thirsty. I want to drink the iced tea, but if I drink the iced tea, it's going to throw the cigar out of whack. And it sort of takes a little while to equalize the flavor profile again. So I don't want to. By indulging in one, I'm going to ruin the other. So it's kind of a toss-up. Do I want to have a little bit of iced tea because I'm thirsty, or do I want to keep smoking the cigar because I'm enjoying it? I'm not enjoying it, you know, immensely, but I am enjoying it nonetheless. So that's where we are, and that's my dilemma. So that'll about do it. So until next time, happy smoking.